Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the U Talk Show. I'm host Gunter Burkhardt, and this is Kyle Enoch Rollinson. And we both have very, very noble names. Once upon a time, people with our sort of names would have been the people that you knew you could come to and get things done. I like to imagine that instead of the filthy peasant stock from which I am descended, a person with a name like mine once might have sort of owned a nice area of land and employed people to take care of it. And Kyle, well, probably would have thrown someone into a burning bush once upon a time or something. And with a name like Enoch, I don't know. If we jump forward a little bit to like the deep south of the US, that is the name that is like the name of a Supreme Court judge or something. We both have names that can easily be associated with honesty, integrity, and getting shit done, which are, interestingly enough, things that are lacking in today's politics. And we'd like to hammer on about that yet again. So, once more unto the breach. What is the true nature of politics, and how much lube do you need to survive it? Kyle.
That took a turn. The fuck? I was not ready for that. I was not ready for that. Good sir, are you trying to kill me via a heart attack? Okay. So that I don't lose my sanity. What's the true nature of politics? Look, let's just start with defining politics. Because I hammer on this a lot, and I've mentioned on the show several times, but we're going to do it again, because I haven't hammered it enough. This horse has not been beaten enough. It's not dead yet, and it's not mush, so going to keep beating. Politics is the process by which the distribution of power, wealth, and resources is decided in a society. All right, so in Australia, we elect people. Those people, we give them power. That's how we distribute power through the election.
Yep.
Then we, through that power that we've given them, they then decide the distribution of wealth and resources. They decide how it's going to go. They decide how much they want to intervene or play, kind of hands off with the whole thing. And you can argue as to, more hands-on, less hands-on, all the specifics. But that being said, that is what politics is about. That process by which we decide the distribution of power and wealth and resources. Now, there are 5 aspects to politics. There are many areas of policy, but that's not what I'm talking about with the aspects. The 5 aspects of politics are the one I absolutely despise, identitarianism. The one that I think needs to stop basically taking over the space of all the others, which is commercialism. The one which doesn't nearly receive enough attention and who I didn't value enough until very recently, culturalism. The one which lawyers like, but I think is a necessary evil, legalism. And then there is, well, what government is supposed to focus on, humanism. Now, identitarianism is based in tribalism, identity, race, religion, gender, sexuality, that can fuck off right now. We're not going to talk about it anymore because it's basically heresy with me. And wow. I do look a little bit like Jesus.
Okay.
So, somewhere there, insert a joke about the Warhammer 40k God Emperor and declaring heresy.
Burn the heretic! Kill the mutant! Purge the unclean!
So then, commercialism, it's basically all about money. That's very much about, it's about money, it's about trade, and it's about the, exchanging of materials, whether that be a barter system, whether it be, literal gold or just, under the whole Bretton Woods agreement, the gold standard, basically, money that represents the gold, or fiat currencies. It's all about exchange and value in very commercial terms, of material wealth. Culture, I mean, it's based in practices, in community, in the lessons that we pass on, both moral and ethical, and also very practical lessons that we pass on to the next generation, and that we create and expand upon ourselves. That's what culturalism is based in. Then legalism, I mean, that's essentially a big old necessary evil, which has to be discussed of how many rules do we want to make? How far do we want these rules to go? And how much can we depend on people to just do the right thing versus, having to write very specific and even esoteric rules just to ensure that they do the right thing because there's a punishment there. How far do we swing that pendulum in which direction? The lawyers like that debate, but I find it a little bit sterile. And then there's my favorite topic of the inspirational variety, humanism, which is all about the human interests, the very human needs and perspectives of people in our society. And a lot of the real interests in politics are humanist interests.
Yeah,
they are like farmers are an interest in politics. They are a human interest. Yes, it's tied up in land and environment and a whole lot of things.
Bold of you to say that farmers are human. I've met farmers. They're weird.
I mean, they are still... I mean, hell, I'm weird. You're weird. Like, we can't judge farmers. I'd like to be a farmer one day, though, so maybe that's why. Anyway, so it could be a human interest in farming, could be the human interest of the working class people, who work in like factories and services industries. Could be the human interest in another way, which I'm trying to think of one, but my mind's just blanking at the moment. Perhaps you can come up with one, Horst.
With regards to the human interest specifically?
Yeah, what's a particular human interest? Like, we got farmers, we got like factory workers, service workers.
I'd say artists.
Oh yeah, art. Actually, wow, I'm surprised I didn't think of that. For a creative person, I sure as hell miss opportunities to speak about creative endeavors.
Yeah, like we are currently going through a situation where creative personnel aren't being paid what they're worth. Governments are actively being hostile to any attempt to sort of create art and get paid for it. The economic situation is unviable. The government doesn't value artists, neither does anyone else, and we're all taught that if you want to make money, you should have been a lawyer instead.
I've actually got an interesting thing to posit.
Okay.
I would posit that art itself, maybe not the artists, so you might be right, but the art itself is more to do with culture than the human interests.
Okay.
More to do with, it's more of a culturalist. Art is more of a culturalist. It's a part of the culturalist aspect of politics. That's what I think.
I see what you're getting.
Artists, yeah. Although the artists themselves, I can definitely see. I can definitely see that I forgot to put the timer on again.
That's fine. That's fine. We're doing okay.
You've got time. Yeah. So how long we got left so I can put it on?
Probably about 3 minutes.
There we go. 3 minutes done. So I'd say that maybe not the artists themselves. I think artists, they'd represent a human interest.
Of course.
And the stories that they tell do impart those cultural lessons. And they also, even challenge existing cultural lessons, which can get very interesting. Again, that's all cultural though. Although you are still right though, even though I don't think it's any more complicated than just they are a human interest group. yeah, that's kind of. I mean, I don't think it's any more complicated than that. So I was going to try and expand on it, but I don't think I can.
No.
Yeah, I was also thinking we should discuss how these aspects are expressed. I mean, I think we've already covered that for the most part.
We largely
Um,
have.
yeah, it's yeah. I think we've already done it. I mean, are we gonna have like a very short episode now?
Yeah, we really are, because
All right.
ultimately I'm going to posit that there are three groups. There are three groups within politics. There are people who invent problems to solve. There are people who try and solve existing problems. And there are people that try and get the existing problems to line up in such a way that they can take full advantage.
Interesting. I guess you're saying three groups, although I'd argue there's a lot more groups, both in
Of
politics and
course,
that
but like
politics
sort of in
concerns.
terms of
Although,
motivations.
yeah, I think, yeah, no, I get what you're saying though. Although I'd say probably a better way of describing that might be that there are three kinds of people who engage with politics: people who create the problems, people who solve the problems, and people who take advantage of the problems for their own personal gain.
Yeah,
I
and
didn't just
politics
misquote you, did
isn't
I?
always. No, that's basically it.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
getting involved in politics isn't always like going and running for office.
Hmm.
Sometimes it is instead choosing to start a business at exactly the right time. Sometimes it is short selling stocks. Sometimes it is taking advantage of a controversy to establish yourself as someone who can speak on it and build a presence as a media figure. And sometimes it's just buying up all of the film you can because you've just heard there was a horrible factory fire and you want to make money off people who need film.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, I mean, we got less than 10 seconds before the alarm goes
We're
off.
involved
So,
in politics. We're trying to talk to people.
yeah, trying to talk to people. Also, I volunteer. I'd recommend checking out, I mean, hell, I spooked it last episode. I'll spook it this episode. Check out the episode where we talk about why people tend to not get involved in politics. And then after that, our four-part series and bonus
how to get
episode.
involved.
Yeah, well, we tell you how to get involved. And it's not really even with a political party that we tell you how to get involved. Although, again, if you agree with 80% of the political party's policies, that is the unicorn territory.
Yeah.
Join them and support them. 80% of a political party's policies is an amazing number because you're never going to get to 100. 80% is like the upper echelon. It's like the maximum. Even 60% is a decent enough reason to join a political party or at least support them, volunteer a bit. Anyway, we'll let you go because, running over time. Bye, everybody.
Take care.